Hey everyone, welcome to the video. Going over my cheat sheet for tomorrow's slate on DraftKings. We have a huge 15-game slate, so there's a lot to break down, but I think we can power through it. Anyway, before we continue, if you could leave a like, subscribe to the channel, I really appreciate that. You can also follow me on Twitter at ChrisPennell16. And if you want access to this cheat, the Slack chat, we talk in Slack chat literally all day. The pitching model, the hitting model, it's got projections on there, and my daily write-up. I do a little article Monday through Friday. You can get access to it on Patreon. I'll put the link in the description below. It'll take you to here, and you can pick what sheet you want. We have over 60 members, so it's awesome. I've just been keeping going up, and I really appreciate all the support on Patreon and on YouTube. You guys have been awesome. And really, the all-access package has really been the most popular because you get access to everything on here, and doing very well. UFC has been awesome. Andrew covers the UFC. His example cash lineup is now cashing at an 89% rate, which is insanely high. Hopefully he's not due. Hopefully he doesn't get the regression soon, but he's been doing awesome. So he's been doing great. NASCAR, we had a guy who went 20K the last race. So we've been doing really well all sports, and we have NFL coming up in September. Very excited for NFL. So if you want access to that, it's on Patreon. And I apologize for doing this every video, but there's new people that watch every time, so I gotta do a little commercial here and there. But yeah, anyway, and then this is the example of the pitching model, all the stats you need on here for every slate. Their overall pitching stats, splits versus lefties and righties. Vegas, once Vegas comes out, there's nothing right now. And then how the opponent matchup is. And then we got park info, and then projections are just a little bit more to the right. So we got all that on there, and we got that for hitters, all the batters, catchers, first, all that good stuff. So anyway, enough plugging. Let's get into the cheat sheet. And as of right now, Coors is sucking, so that sucks. But I did 3 Andrew Max, and I had a Dodgers and Indians stack combo, and that's going really well. So that saved my night. My Rockies lineups are way in the back. I think one's almost in last place, but that lineup's saving me. So I hope you guys had some Dodgers and Indians exposure. Hopefully Coors starts going off here soon, but not looking good. They did earlier in the day, the 2 o'clock game that went off. Well, the Giants did, but yeah. Anyway, let's get into the cheat sheet now. So SP1, there's a couple guys I feel way more safe with. Walker Buehler, 10,200. He's the #1 spend-up pitcher for me versus Philly. He's been elite this season with his last 5 games, excluding Coors. They read 22, 53, 26, 34, and 40. So, I mean, he's got insane upside. He's got upside like Chris Sale does. And at only 10,200, I feel pretty good about that. And I do think he's going to be able to get the win. I think the Dodgers are going to score some runs. And he's just got elite K upside. He doesn't walk a lot of guys. And he's only 700 more than Yamamoto. And I feel a lot better with Buehler. So he's actually, if you want to stack a good offense, the Indians are still cheap and they're in a good spot, and it really doesn't hurt you too much to pay up for Buehler, because then we got Plesac at 7K, which I'll go over soon. So I do like Buehler a lot, and then because he really stands out the most to me. And then Yamamoto is 9,500. So his ERA sits at a really pretty 1.24 ERA, but his xFIP is over 3 points higher at 4.76, so that means he's due for some extreme regression. But he does have a 27% K rate, and he's pitching in Miami. I will say, though, I think he's got a 13% walk rate, so that's high. But he's going to be going against a team in San Diego who strikes out a lot versus righties, and is a much worse team versus righties. So I do think he can have a pretty decent game, but for only 700 more, I'd really try to get up to Buehler, because I feel a lot more safe with that. And plus, Miami's never a good bet to get the pitcher a win anyway. Then SP2, I'm liking Plesac at 7K. I didn't like Plutko because of his reverse splits versus Detroit, so he's not really traditionally right. Or I'm usually always interested in right-handed pitchers versus Detroit, but Plutko's reverse splits. So excluding him, I do like righties versus Detroit. And Plesac isn't the best pitcher, and I am a biased Indians fan, but I love righties versus Detroit, like I just said. And he should be able to handle himself well. He doesn't strike out a lot of guys, but give me 15 points, I'll be pretty happy with that. Then a catcher, we got Stephen Vogt at 4,500. They went off in the early game, like I just said a little bit ago. And, well, now it's later when I wrote that, but Coors is still not doing too hot. But I do expect more of the same versus Lambert, who is hittable from both sides of the plate, especially versus lefties. Then Roberto Perez at 4,300. He's having a pretty good game right now. I think he's got over 11 points. And the Indians face another lefty in Ryan Carpenter, who's possibly the worst pitcher in the league. No offense to the O's pitching staff. They're pretty horrible too, but I do think Carpenter may take the crown for that. And then that Detroit bullpen's awful as well. So I do think the Indians should be able to tee off again. And they're very affordable, so I do like that a lot. Then Chance Sisco at 4,400. He's been elite versus righties this season with a 380 ISO, and both has been very hittable by lefties, allowing a 460 WOBA and a higher walk rate than K rate versus lefties. So that's pretty awful. So I do like him. And then at first we have Brandon Belt 4,800. His price really creeping up. But leading off, and Lambert has been terrible versus lefties, allowing a 423 ISO, 445 WOBA, and it's course field. And then Jock Peterson at 4,500. He had a pretty good game. He actually just had an at-bat, bases loaded versus Roman Quinn, the outfielder, and he flew out, but he gave like a half-effort swing. So that would have been really nice to get a grand slam there, but it didn't happen. But kind of the same matchup tonight versus tomorrow night versus Vince Velasquez. He can be pretty wild, but he does allow a lot of power. He does have a good strikeout rate, but he's a wild man, and like I said, he gives up some homers. So I do like Peterson. He's going to be leading off, and he's got elite numbers versus righties. And then Anthony Rizzo, 4,300. He's just too cheap here versus Esclafani, who struggles with lefties, but he's very solid versus righties. So give me the lefties here from Chicago. It doesn't look like the wind's going to be blowing out, but pretty neutral playing field for the win tomorrow. And then second base, ugly position besides Muncy, kind of, but I do like Altuve at 4K. He's been elite versus lefties this season with a 355 ISO. Heaney has a good K rate, but is allowing a good amount of power to lefties and righties. So I do like him. And then Garrett Hampson, 3,300. He is low in the order, but facing a lefty in Coors, he's very affordable. Rockies got killed by Pomeranz last time. I don't know if you guys remember that. Pomeranz was kind of chalky in San Francisco, and I think he struck them out 11 times. But that was in San Francisco. Now we're in Coors, so a whole different story. And then Muncy, 5K. He homered. And I love the Dodgers again, as Vince gives up a lot of power. Like I said, he can get some strikeouts, but Muncy has crushed righties the past 2 years. Then Nolan Arenado. This is the top play of the slate for me, 5,100. Like I said, top play, and it's kind of underpriced for him at Coors. Palm is bad versus righties, and Arenado is elite versus lefties, so it's really just science. Pretty much the easiest play for me. I think you're going to be able to afford them. There's some good value options. So say I want to get Bueller and Plesac, I'm probably not going to be able to go all the way up to just fully stacking Coors. So if I can get Arenado and maybe Story, I can still stack the Indians up, and I think that's a pretty good way to go tomorrow. I haven't made lineups yet, but just some early thoughts. Then Devers, Red Sox are one of the top stacks going up against, I don't even know, Wagas, I don't know, call them Wags. In the Blue Jays bullpen, which is one of the worst in the leagues. No one's going to play Devers with Nato being even cheaper than him, but I do think he's a good part of that Red Sox stack if you want to be contrarian. Then J-Ram, 4,300. He's having a pretty decent game for his price. Like the Indians, better versus righties. But Ryan Carpenter barely counts as a pitcher, so everyone is in play here, and the bullpen's going to come in at some point anyway. Then at shortstop, you have Trevor Story, 5,400. If I do have to pick between him or Nolan, I'm going to go with Nolan on how much better he is versus lefties. And Story hasn't been as good versus lefties this season compared to righties, but overall in his career, he's been a lefty smasher, and he's still an elite play. This game has a 14.5 total. That might creep up to 15 by tomorrow. I'm not sure, but there's going to be runs scored in this game. Then Brandon Crawford, 3,900. I think he's got 3 home runs today. That might have gone up even more. I haven't looked at my phone since I've been recording, but he's got a good chance to stay hot tomorrow versus Lambert. So I do like him as a cheaper price, and maybe you get to spend up at other positions, and he kind of might have the same upside as Story tomorrow, so much cheaper too. And then Xander or Frankie, they're both vital parts of a stack if you're stacking the Red Sox or the Indians tomorrow. Then in the high-end outfield, Cody Bellinger, 5,600. He's going off right now. I think he has 40 points. So with Blackman facing a lefty, that's going to make Belly the top outfielder for me tomorrow versus Vince. Dodgers ran over the Phillies, and Belly went double dong, so I think they have a good chance at scoring a lot of runs again. Then the Red Sox outfield. Like I said, the whole Red Sox team is in play here and is one of the top stacks. That includes JD, Mookie, Benny, and Jackie Bradley if he makes the lineup. And then Juan Soto, 5,300. I know I don't have many Nats listed, but they are a top stack versus Asher and the O's bullpens. Soto's been elite versus righties. They're just so expensive, and I like the other spots better, but it could be a more contrarian stack. And then in the mid-range outfield, a lot of good options here. Nelson Cruz tops the list, 4,500. Just Cruz versus lefties. It's been a thing for forever. And he's got a 333 ISO versus lefties this season, and Matz is allowing a ton of hard contact to righties, so he makes a lot of sense. And I don't expect his ownership to be too high. No one's really going to have too much ownership because it's a 15-game slate, 30 teams, but can't see much people going there. Then Jordan Luplow at 4K didn't work last night, but when I was writing that, when I did write that, he had 0 points. Now I think he's got 5, so maybe it did work a little bit. But it's a great spot versus Carpenter, even better than it was versus Norris tonight. So he's been one of the best in the league this season versus lefties. He's got an ISO near 400, so I think he's in an awesome spot, and I would gladly go back to it. And Oscar Mercado, he is betting second. Had him in my Indian stack, and he's doing really good. He's got 40. He's 4,100 in this slate, and he had a great night last night with a homer and a stolen base. And he should hit second tomorrow, and I do love the price, and I had to update that because he made it 2 home runs as I was writing that. So Mercado, look for him to stay hot. I could see him carrying some ownership, especially for the game log watchers, but I do think he's a fantastic play. Someone I will be very high on. And then in the value outfield, we have Cal Schwarber, 3,900. Continues just to be too cheap versus lefties, and Desclafani is the guy I want to use with the lefties, and it's just too cheap leading off. Then Adam Eaton at 4K, he doesn't have much power, but he's a solid overall hitter with a good amount of speed, and he's also a cheap Nats bat, so if you are going to stack the Nats, he's an affordable piece, or even if you don't, you just want a small piece of the Nats, there you go. And then Chris Davis at 3,400, not too interested in the A's with how many good offenses are in good spots, but very cheap bat with tons of power, upside versus a lefty. And if we go to some of the core plays, we've got Plesac at 7K. I'm not in love with the play, but we're gonna have to spend down somewhere at pitcher, and I think this makes a lot of sense. And then Nolan Arenado 5,100, just easiest play on the slate in my opinion versus a lefty. And then Luplow 4K, really like that spot again. And then for the top stacks, I got Coors, the Indians, the Red Sox, the Nats, and the Dodgers lefties. Anyway, guys, that's all I have for the video. I'll fill the yellow stuff out for Patreon, so get in Patreon if you haven't yet. It's pretty affordable. You'll be hanging out all day in Slack, and you can get a lot of good value out of it. But like I said, that's all I have for the video. Remember to leave a like, subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate that. Follow me on Twitter at ChrisPennell16. And shout out to Andrew. He's did all the golf content, and he's on a cruise, so he's working very hard for you guys, even on vacation. And that'll be out pretty soon. I got the video. I just got to upload it. Anyway, best of luck tomorrow. Best of luck tonight if you're doing good. And see you tomorrow.